Hey guys, welcome back to Makeup with Morgan. So, last time we talked about my middle school friendships, but today let's talk about my high school friendships because it's been rough out here, buddy. So, basically, I'm a senior in high school and I'll be graduating in a couple months. We're going to start today in freshman year, and a lot of you watching may be either in your freshman year or about to go into it, so maybe you want to hear somebody else's experience. My friendships throughout the year have changed a lot, and needless to say, I've got a bunch of stories from that. My freshman year, my friends were mainly my boyfriend's old friends, emphasis on old, because this group did not last very long. So I'll tell you the worst of this friend group, how we split up, and what my boyfriend and I did afterwards. To start off with, let me introduce you to the freshman lunch table. So, as we all know, boys have cooties. And I had known these boys for a very long time. Like we said in my last episode, Elliot, Bob, and I had kind of created this, lunch table for ourselves. And slowly, Elliot and Bob, well, actually, no, Bob stayed around for a while in 8th grade, but Elliot had made some other friends and had sat otherwhere, which is fine. But the people in this group, we're going to call them 1, 2, and 3 because there's the main people that we're talking about. So 1 is somebody who I don't particularly like. I've never particularly liked him, and honestly, I found him quite annoying all the time. 2 is going to represent all the other people who sat there, and I kind of forget about who they were because I didn't talk to them a lot. And 3 is going to represent one of my friends who I don't really talk to anymore, but I never had an issue with. So anyway, what made me uncomfortable in this group is the fact that 3 was like the only person that I liked. I didn't know any of the 2s very well because sometimes people would sit there, sometimes they wouldn't. And when they did, it was a lot of jokes that were very uncomfortable, specifically by 1. And because I was the only girl sitting there, a lot of times those jokes hit at me because obviously I was the girl. Now, my boyfriend did his best to support me and defend me, but when you have so many of 1 and 2s ganging up on you, you're outnumbered. So it was really uncomfortable, and I honestly dreaded going to lunch. And I was also dealing with a bunch of mental health stuff at the time. This is before I was medicated for anxiety. So all of that was just a big, bad concoction. And finally, the pandemic hit. And so that was kind of like the last straw for our friend group. All these instances really added up to the major split. So the Pangea, or Pangea, however you say that, of my friend group was basically after the pandemic, we all stopped talking to each other because we were all home. And obviously I had lunch by myself because I was home all the time. And I would text my boyfriend and I would tell him, hey, Tatum, 1 and 2s are all saying this stuff to me, and I never really liked being treated that way. And he was like, I totally get it. I don't really like them either. And so we decided that when we went back to school, because this is after school had been canceled for the rest of the year, we decided when we went back to school, we would find a new place to sit. And I mean, we didn't know where we were going. We had no clue who we would sit with, but we knew that we wanted to find somewhere else to sit. But we weren't the only reason this friend group split up. Remember, there's a pandemic. People changed a lot. So some of the people, especially the 2s who had sat with us on and off, they found more solid friends during the pandemic. So when they went back to school, they sat with them instead of on and off with us. And 3, this is his story. He actually ended up absolutely grinding during the pandemic. He graduated early, got accepted into Ball State, and started college, which is insane. He's still at Ball State. Very, very smart kid. Very proud of number 3. So, we're all going into this different stage of our life, and none of us want to be friends with each other anymore. And we just decided we're going to move on. So now that Tatum and I were on our own at the start of sophomore year, we needed somewhere to go. We're back to kind of a friendship tender with this, if you will. I was kind of having middle school flashbacks at this point because I had no one to just sit down with like I did Elliot and Bob, because Elliot his friends, I did not like his friends at this time. And Elliot would tell you he didn't like his friends at that time. But, stuff happens. So I was like, I'm not sitting with Elliot. And then I couldn't sit with Bob because Bob still sat around 2 and 3. Or, sorry, 1 and 2. So it's like, what do I do? So I decided that, we're zoomed in here because of how horrible my brows were freshman year, by the way. Anyway, so I decided I was going to sit back with some friends that I had from middle school. One of them I was friends with in 5th grade. One of them I was never, ever really friends with because she was newer. And then one of them I'd always kind of been slight friends with. When I got to this table, I kind of started just like including myself where I wasn't necessarily wanted, which was a bad idea. And it's not that they actively didn't want me to be their friend. It was just really awkward because I just kind of started throwing myself in there. And looking back, there was definitely a better way for me to do this. But I was like 15. So, I had no clue what I was doing. I just wanted friends. Friends have always been super important to me. And I just wanted to feel like I belong, especially after dealing with 1, 2, and 3 for so long. And I was happy because, these were a group of girls and I could laugh with them. But my boyfriend, he didn't have any guys at that table to talk to. And he just kind of sat there for me. He didn't have any friends at this time. And my friends weren't his friends. And so I kind of got to this point near the end of sophomore year where I sort of had to decide, like, do I choose my best friends or my boyfriend? Now, calling these people my best friends is a strong word because I'd only really sat with them for a year. I hadn't talked to them, like, too much before then. And so, and I, really, really love my boyfriend. So it was like, what do I do? And it was really difficult because when we can delve into this in a different episode if you want to know the story. But at the end of sophomore year, I ended up breaking up with my boyfriend before I went to Hawaii. And so I actually ended up choosing my best friends over my boyfriend. So I was single for a while. And it was really hard because I realized at that time, these weren't my forever friends. And I had given up something that I really loved. So later on, Tatum and I do get back together. But at this point, we are broken up. So while we had this friend group from the start, it was obvious it wouldn't last. But you'll have to kind of wait for the next episode to find out why. Because I'm going to talk about a girl in the group we'll call Jessica. And we'll explain what happened with why me and one of my friends at that table had eventually left. So, in conclusion, my boyfriend's friend made for a toxic friend group that eventually split up and led to my next stage of friendships. And there were some dramatic tales in this friend group. Taylor Swift-worthy breakup and a new journey for both me and my boyfriend. Next time we'll go over what happened after the pandemic and how it impacted my friendships. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this installment of Makeup with Morgan. And I'll see you guys later. Bye. Love you.